She had no idea that the man she trusted most was already planning a betrayal that would destroy her world. The wedding invitations were printed, the dress hung in her closet, and her heart was full of dreams until one message changed everything. It was a quiet evening when Emily sat by the window, scrolling through her phone, lost in thoughts of her soon-to-be husband, Ryan. They had been together for 5 years, 5 long, beautiful years filled with laughter, promises, and late-night talks about forever. But that night, forever ended. Her phone buzzed, an unknown number. A single photo appeared on her screen, Ryan, with another woman. His hands around her waist, their faces close, too close to explain away. Her chest tightened, her fingers went numb, and for a moment, she couldn't breathe. The caption beneath it read, "He said he was single." The world around her blurred. The laughter that once echoed in her mind turned into a haunting silence. The man she thought she knew, the man she was going to marry, had lied. Emily wanted to scream, to call him, to ask why. But instead, she sat still, frozen, her tears falling without a sound. She opened their old messages. "I can't wait to call you my wife," he had said just 2 nights ago. Now, those words felt poisonous. Hours passed. Her mother called from downstairs, asking if she was okay. Emily forced her voice steady, saying she was fine, because how could she explain that her entire world had just collapsed? At 3 a.m., she finally confronted him. A call. A trembling voice. A silence on the other end that spoke more than any words ever could. Ryan didn't deny it. He just whispered, "It was a mistake." But how do you mistake love? How do you promise forever to one person and still hold another behind closed doors? Her wedding day was 7 days away, and she had to decide whether to walk down the aisle or walk away forever. Emily didn't sleep that night. She sat by the window, the phone still in her hand, replaying his words again and again. It was a mistake. A mistake? No. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is being late for dinner. What he did was a choice, a deliberate betrayal. By morning, her eyes were swollen, but her resolve was sharper than ever. She needed the truth, all of it. Who was the girl? How long had this been going on? And most of all, why? She called Ryan and told him to meet her at the cafe where they had their first date, the place where he once said, "This is where our forever begins." Now, she wanted it to be the place where it ended. He arrived, looking nervous, guilt heavy in his eyes. He tried to hold her hand, but she pulled away. The silence between them was suffocating, the kind that makes your chest ache. Finally, she spoke. "Who is she, Ryan?" He looked down, his voice barely above a whisper. "Someone I met at work. It didn't mean anything." Her heart broke a little more. "Didn't mean anything? You lied to me for months. You planned a wedding with me while loving someone else." Tears filled his eyes, but she wasn't moved. The man she once loved now felt like a stranger sitting across from her. Then, just as she was about to leave, a woman walked into the cafe, the same woman from the photo. Their eyes met. The air froze. The woman hesitated, then said softly, "You're Emily, right?" "I didn't know he was engaged." "I swear I didn't." Emily's breath hitched. Her world spun again, not because of the other woman's words, but because of what she held in her hand. A small velvet box. Inside it was a ring, the same one Ryan had promised to Emily. The truth hit like a storm. He hadn't just cheated emotionally, he had planned a life with both of them. Emily stood up, her voice trembling but strong. "You didn't just break my heart, Ryan. You broke every piece of who I was." She walked out, leaving him with his guilt and the life he destroyed. The next morning, the sun rose, but Emily didn't feel its warmth. Her house was filled with wedding boxes, white roses, and unspoken pain. Every corner reminded her of the life she was supposed to live, a life now built on lies. She sat on the floor in her white silk robe, holding her wedding shoes in her lap. They sparkled under the morning light, mocking her. A symbol of a future that no longer existed. One by one, she opened every wedding card, every gift. Each message read, "Wishing you a lifetime of happiness." Her hands trembled. Happiness? It felt like a word from another world now. Her mother knocked gently. Sweetheart, you need to eat something. Emily's voice cracked. Mom, it's over. Her mother froze at the door. What do you mean? He cheated, Emily whispered. He's been lying to me for months. Her mother's eyes filled with tears, but Emily didn't cry anymore. She had no tears left. Only emptiness. That afternoon, she called the wedding planner and said the words no bride ever imagined saying, cancel everything. There was silence on the other end. Then the woman asked softly, are you sure? Emily took a deep breath. Yes. I'm done pretending I'm okay. Hours later, she drove to the venue alone, the same place where they were supposed to say their vows. The white chairs stood perfectly in line, the altar decorated with flowers she had chosen. It looked beautiful, and yet it felt like a funeral. She walked to the altar, stood where she was meant to become his wife, and whispered to herself, you almost gave your forever to someone who didn't deserve a single day. Then she pulled out her phone and sent one final message to Ryan. Thank you for showing me who you really are before I said I do. I loved you once, but I love myself more now. She blocked his number, deleted every picture. And as she walked away from that empty wedding setup, a strange calm washed over her. She had lost him, but she had found her strength. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, the silence became her companion. The house that once echoed with laughter now carried only the faint hum of her healing. Emily deleted her wedding photos, put away the dress, and started living one painful day at a time. She stopped checking her phone, stopped wondering if he'd call, because she knew some doors need to stay closed. But healing isn't a straight path. Some nights, she woke up at 2 a.m. with tears she thought had dried. She'd sit by her window, staring at the empty street, whispering to herself, why wasn't I enough? That question haunted her until one morning, she realized she had been enough. He just hadn't been worthy. She began focusing on herself, joined a painting class, started running again, and filled her walls with color instead of pain. For the first time in years, she laughed without pretending. Then, one evening, as she was leaving her art class, she saw him. Ryan, standing by his car, holding a bouquet of lilies, her favorite. His eyes carried regret, desperation, and something else, fear. Emily, he said softly, please, just hear me out. Her heart raced, but her face stayed calm. There's nothing left to say, Ryan. I made a mistake. I can't sleep, I can't think, I lost everything. She looked at him, the man who once was her entire world, and realized he was now just a chapter she had already finished reading. You didn't lose everything, she said quietly. You lost me. And that's what hurts you now, because you finally know what that means. He tried to reach for her hand, but she stepped back. This isn't your chance to fix it. It's mine to move on. Her voice didn't tremble this time. She turned away, leaving him standing alone, just as he had left her before. As she walked down the street, she smiled faintly through the tears. Sometimes closure doesn't come from apologies. It comes from walking away with your head held high. That night, Emily finally slept peacefully, not because she forgot what happened, but because she forgave herself for holding on too long. Months passed. Seasons changed. What once felt like the end of Emily's story slowly began to look like the beginning of something new. She moved to a smaller apartment, a place that didn't hold the ghosts of broken promises. It was quiet, sunlit, and hers. She spent mornings watering plants, evenings painting, and nights writing letters she'd never send. Each brushstroke, each word, became a piece of healing stitched back into her heart. People told her she was glowing again. But what they didn't see were the scars, invisible, yet powerful. Scars that taught her to love herself more than she ever loved anyone else. One Sunday, she attended a small art exhibition downtown. Her paintings were on display for the first time, vibrant, emotional, raw. Among the crowd, a man stood silently, staring at one of her pieces. It was titled, The Wedding That Never Happened. He turned to her, smiled gently, and said, "It's painful, but beautiful." She smiled back. Pain usually is. They talked for hours about art, heartbreak, and the strange way life breaks us just to rebuild us stronger. His name was Daniel, a photographer who had his own story of loss. But with him, the silence didn't hurt. It felt peaceful, familiar. As weeks turned into months, Daniel never promised her forever. He promised honesty, and that was enough. One evening, as they watched the sunset together, he said, "You know, sometimes the person who breaks you isn't meant to stay. They're just meant to show you who you could become." Emily looked at him, her heart calm for the first time in a long time. "I used to think my life ended the day my wedding got canceled. But now, I think that was the day it truly began." She smiled, feeling the weight lift completely. Ryan was just a memory now, one she no longer hated, nor missed. She had forgiven the past, embraced the present, and finally chosen herself. Because sometimes, the most beautiful love story isn't about finding someone new. It's about finding yourself after being broken.